Hello. Okay, so for the global terrorism class, I had specified during the live lecture that I would give a quick overview of some books that you might be interested in. So bear with me. What I'll do is I'm just gonna show you a few and kind of give you a brief synopsis of what I think about them, what they give you, or what they don't. So this way you can have a little bit more of an informed opinion. As you can tell, I'm a little bit of a bibliophile. Having a counterterrorism background and an interest, the study of it really has been something of a labor of love in both collecting and reading these. So I have read over the last 30 years, I have read these at one time or another. So, and some of them I've actually even bookmarked. So the first one, and these aren't in any kind of particular order of preference or anything like that, is The Insurgency and Terrorism, Bard O'Neill. Really a good book. This actually was a primary reader when I went to the agency. And the reason I have it bookmarked is very specific things. This was, you look at Al Shabaab in Somalia and the surrounding countries that you really have to look at it as an insurgency. It became more prevalent when I had individuals after the January 6th Capitol event. I do not call it an insurgency. I watched a majority of the January 6th committee hearings, as well as even bought the committee hearing book once it was published. And I got to say, it really is one-sided, unfortunately, on a political side. You can take any attorneys, which a majority of congressional and Senate individuals are, and really argue the points. But when you start to read books like this that really give you what is an insurgency and what is terrorism, really helps you make an informed decision, and it gives you perspective. That's from the academic standpoint. Here you go. Here is a tried and true must have for any individual interested in terrorism. It is The Origins of Terrorism. It is edited by Walter Reich. The foreword is by Walter Lacour. Lacour actually is like really one of the very first and primary academics to talk about terrorism. And this is, even though this was written, in the 1970s, this one actually was, no, in the 1990s, sorry. Wow. I'm thinking of Lacour's books. This one first published in 1990. This one specifically was edited 1998. So yes, it is pre 9/11, which we have a whole different take on terrorism, but it doesn't change, again, the psychologies, the ideologies, the theologies of terrorism. It gives you exactly what, when we start to talk about the where we're at currently with the Hamas-Israel conflict, that goes back to the original conflicts of the 1970s and 80s and even the early 1990s. So to me, that is a must-have book. Here's another book, Tactics of the Crescent Moon. I read this for my undergraduate, believe it or not. I would say it is not a must-have. It's intriguing to think about. There you go. Intriguing to think about having it as a reader, but it was published, of course, soon after 9/11, and it just, to me, was not 2004 is when it was published. To me, this was a book that was rushed to hop on the bandwagon of anything jihadist. to say that this is these were combat methods of militants, jihadist militants, everything from Chechens to, the Islamic Jihad, the original things as well, combat tactics. You can get more or less what you learn in basic terrorism, counterterrorism courses, so on and so forth. Okay, the big ones I know that I already had discussed were the context in Terrorism in Context, edited by Martha Crenshaw. This actually is a phenomenal book, chock full of a lot of information, stuff that I think anybody interested in understanding terrorism from the cultural, sociological, political sense, that is covered in that book. And then here you go. Here is Invisible Armies by Max Boot. This is a very good book. It gives you a lot of historical context to what we look at as insurgencies, guerrilla warfare, what we now can deem terrorism as well. So to me, this is a really good addition to your collection of, it's not terrorism specific, it is guerrilla tactics. That is what terrorists have adopted. But that's also what our special forces and counterterrorism, tip of the spear, counterinsurgency tactics have adopted. So you look at that, you kind of get a sense of understanding of how, because, individuals who are insurgents, who are terrorists, they read this stuff as well. So the last one I'm going to do, and I can do more, probably another dozen, is Leaderless Jihad, Mark Sageman, Terror Network in the 21st Century. It's an easy read. It's not all that long, but it really does. And this too was written in the 2000s. And again, some of these I actually bought as soon as it came out. So 2008, of course, we already had, Al Qaeda and in the mix of it. This actually talks a lot about how the internet, it doesn't go into what we say is a lot of cyber per se. I'm looking at the table of context. It talks about globalization of jihadism, radicalization, and the combating global Islamist terrorists. So these are, how to study terrorism on the global scale is one of the chapters here. I think that it adds to your body of knowledge, and is really is anything that I would say read these. Out of all of them, only really one I would say you could bypass. It's unless you pick it up for really cheap. I would never pay full price. Again, I belonged at the time, where I worked for a company that would buy books and reimburse us as part of a study. Unfortunately, you're probably not going to find that anymore. But used bookstores, Amazon or any kind of online used bookstore to buy these, I would highly suggest a majority of these. Again, none of these in priority. You heard what I had to say about each one. So I hope that helps in your determination of where you want to go next. I'll soon post another review of other books. Take care.